Welcome, everybody, to another edition of The Connection, the podcast that we produce here at Comunidad Connect. We are thrilled to be in a new studio. A friend of ours, Mike Dobbs with ATL on Fire, has graciously opened up his space for us to be here. I'm joined by my good friend and colleague, Dr. Roberto Vargas. He's on the board of directors at Comunidad Connect. We've been longtime friends and travel companions recently down to the DR. That's the theme of this interview tonight. We have with us a very special guest that Roberto will be introducing here momentarily. But very happy that you guys joined us. We try to lift up people that inspire us to think and act differently here with the podcast. And Brian Mejia is just one of those people that you meet and immediately you're like, oh my God, this guy's like not only so cool, but he's so accomplished as well. And so it's just awesome to be with you, Brian, and everybody here. I'm going to hand it over to Roberto to do some introductions.
It's a pleasure to introduce my cousin, Brian Mejia. He has a very interesting background that we will go over here today and how that led into him reaching out to the local at-risk youth, both, I would say, somewhat through baseball as well as through surfing. He is a Major League Baseball scout and agent, owner of Carambola Surf House, and a big contributor into the Marullos project. We actually spoke about the Marullos project in our previous podcast.
That's right.
And we will reference that when it becomes appropriate. But without any further delay, we would like to introduce Brian Mejia and tell us a little bit about yourself, Brian.
Thanks a lot, John. Thanks, Rob, for having me on the podcast. This is it's a new thing for me. This is the first podcast I've ever done.
Welcome aboard.
Yeah. Thank you, man. Thank you. No, it's a pleasure to talk about all this stuff that we've been doing in Dominican Republic. For me personally, I started as a 19-year-old. I got a job with the Florida Marlins. I grew up, born and raised in Miami. Grew up as a baseball fan. You know, the only baseball we had at the time when I was a kid was the Orioles spring training in Miami, and the Yankees were in Fort Lauderdale. And in '93, the Marlins were granted the team, and I got hired. And I got hired to push paper in the front office, more like a clerk. I was going to school at night and working with the Marlins. Doing that, and I worked with them for 5 years. In the last couple years of my employment there, I got into the scouting department. Funny thing, I was playing some amateur baseball in Florida, and I was playing with a couple release players. Actually, I was the only guy who had never been signed. The team was really good. It was based with Dominican release players that just stayed in Miami. And 4 of them, I'd given a bird's eye, or they call it a bird dog view to the team, and they didn't end up signing the players. They signed up with the White Sox, and that was in the year that the lockout was. I think it was '94. So the guys ended up getting into the big leagues with the White Sox, and they were like, man, you know, this kid has potential. I think I was like 20 at that time, 2021. And so I started doing some part-time scouting with one of the local scouts in Miami. We win the World Series in '97. He goes to the Cincinnati Reds, and he hires me as a Latin American scout for the Cincinnati Reds.
Nice.
So I was there from '98 to 2002 with the Cincinnati Reds in the Dominican Republic, and I did Latin America. From there, I spent 5 years in Dominican, and I thought it was time to go back to the States. So I started working with Louisville Slugger in their marketing division, their pro marketing division. You know, basically getting guys to use their bats, their equipment, their batting gloves, and signing them to endorsement deals. And from there, I went to Under Armour. So I did Under Armour for a couple of years. They came out with Click Clack, the spikes. I don't know if you guys remember that promo.
Mm-hmm. Was that you?
I'm sorry?
Was that you, Click Clack? Are you Mr. Click Clack?
No, I wasn't Mr. Click Clack, but it was in that era when they came out with Click Clack. It was they started off with football spikes, and then they went into or football cleats, and then they went into baseball spikes. From there, a buddy of mine, who's my partner still, he was with Louisville Slugger. An agency came calling, Derek Jeter's agent. This guy, his name is Casey Close, one of the most respected agents in the business. And he offered my partner a position. My partner told me, hey, man, you should come with me. They're going to guarantee us X amount of years and X amount of dollars. And it kind of worked out because I wanted to come back to the Dominican Republic and do some other baseball projects. And so we went to work with them for a couple of years. Casey Close then went and did his own thing. We separated from the agency that we were at. Me and my partner created the Dominican Prospect League, which is basically it gathers the best players on the island, and scouts go see them, evaluate them, and eventually sign them.
How's that going, by the way?
I'm sorry?
How's that going, by the way? Has it been successful?
Yeah, it's consistent. You know, there's a lot of change in the business. A lot of players are getting signed earlier and earlier, or reaching agreements earlier and earlier. So it's you just got to adjust to the nature of what's going on. But yeah, the Dominican Prospect League has been going now for 13 years. Started in 2000, or 12 years, going on 13 years. We started in 2009. And a lot of guys have come out of there, guys like Fernando Tatis Jr., Vladimir Jr., Juan Soto. I mean, we've had about 100 alumni in 13 years.
That's fantastic.
I would say that's successful.
Yeah, I think so. but you know, we sign them. We create the platform, but we don't retain them as clients all the time. And guys like Tatis and Vladdy Jr. and Soto and those guys like that. Prior to that, we signed Gary Sanchez with the Yankees. But you know, we provide them a platform to get viewed and evaluated and eventually signed, and then they go on and, you know, to greatness.
Because otherwise they wouldn't have a platform, right, to show their skill set.
Well, at the time, we're talking 11, 12. We're talking 12 years ago. At the time, we were the only platform. We created that evaluation process. Before, scouts were going out to different places in the Dominican Republic, seeing players, signing them on the spot, or following them and hiding them so that their market value, you know, they can control their market value. But apart from controlling market value, it was the acquisition of the player that they really wanted. But then it got a little sloppy. You know, there was a lot of like under the table deals. You know, guys were using steroids. There wasn't a clean, transparent process of evaluation and signing.
Do you think some kids were taken advantage of through this process before the Dominican Prospect League came around?
Yeah, and not only the player, but the trainer and everybody involved. It's like if you have a guy like a Fernando Tatis Jr., who we know he's the face of baseball right now. Before he signed, a guy like that, whether it was David Ortiz or Pedro Martinez or all the big names, Vladimir Guerrero, like all those guys signed way below the value of their initial signing bonus. So with this brought transparency with the Dominican Prospect League, brought transparency and brought the evaluation process. So if all 30 teams are evaluating the same thing and everything's transparent, just like the draft, right? Why should the value be less than what the player's worth? And we created this so it could be transparent. And if a guy was worth $50,000 or $1, great. But if he's worth $3 million, then you should pay him $3 million.
So be it.
That was kind of like the idea. So that's what we're doing now on the amateur side. On the pro side, you know, me and my partner have the agency and we represent some big name players in the major leagues. So I'm here frequently. And as Robert knows, like me and my family, we come here every year regardless, just because we want to see family and we want to get away. And I was coming here to Dominican Republic since I was born. And one thing that my parents always instilled in me was, you know, to give back to the community. And when we would come here to the Dominican Republic, well, I'm in Dominican Republic now, just, you know, but when we used to come here as a kid, a pair of sneakers, and not that this place is, there's poverty here, but it isn't like hunger poverty. It's poverty because people just they're really humble, and they come from basically, you know, an underprivileged life, and anything like a pair of sneakers or a glove or a baseball bat for little kids or a toy for Christmas, that was enormous, or still is enormous for these kids. And every year we would come and I would bring, like, you know, sneakers and things to give away to kids. And I would just like or enjoy the fact that these people really appreciated things. And that's just been the way I was brought up, you know, coming here for year after year, summer after summer. And I said, you know what, when I get to a position where I can help somebody, I will. And, you know, whether it's in baseball, or whether it's in surfing, or just people in general that I have relationships with that I played as a kid, and now those kids that I played with as a kid are grown and they have families, and their little kid plays baseball, and they're always like, hey man, I think you can get me a glove for my son. And, you know, we just, it's a part of our culture. You know, Dominicans that live in the United States that come here always want to, you know, give back. And, you know, now, you know, I've gotten into Carambola Surf House and into surfing, and I'm just finding ways that I can provide help for others. And that's, in a nutshell, that's what I do.
And Brian, talk a little bit about how you got into surfing and Carambola Surf House in particular, because the Carambola Surf House didn't actually start as a surf house. That started as your parents' home. I remember visiting there as a kid. So talk a little bit about that. I never actually heard your story about how you got into surfing. Is it just as simple as the waves are in your backyard?
Yeah, well, a little bit of that. As a kid, my older brother, he's like 20 years older than me. He would take me surfing when I was a kid in Miami Beach, to South Beach and Hollover. He bought my first board. You know, me and him used to go out and water ski. He used to take me out with his friends on his boat. So we were always active doing stuff. And like I said before, my parents would come to the Dominican Republic, specifically on the North Coast, because we had family friends here that, you know, opened their doors. And so we would come here. My mom and dad bought some property on the beach, and the waves were always good here. So I would come here to surf during the summers. And I was always into surfing, but, you know, once you get a little older and you start having responsibilities, surfing time kind of like cuts out, and you surf when you can. But I would leave surfboards here at my parents' house. My parents retired in 1989, moved here to the Dominican Republic, and they had some property. They linked up with a family friend. We call him, he's like our uncle. They built a hotel, and they had a all-inclusive hotel here in Cabarete for like 15 years.
The Sea Grape, correct?
Sea Grape, yeah. You remember going there? So
I remember going there, yeah.
Yeah, they sold that in 2007, but they stayed here in Cabarete. My dad built the house here, and the house needed some, you know, upgrades, and needed some little
TLC.
Yeah. And so me and my brother started remodeling it, and then I got really into it, and I was like, you know what, let's continue to remodel. So I kind of did a whole facelift to the place. And some buddies of mine run surf schools here, and they're like, man, you should do a surf house. We get groups to come from the United States. You know, the pad is nice, the logistics to the beaches are really convenient. Let's do it. So I linked up with a couple buddies of mine, and now we're offering packages and turned my parents' house into a surf house.
And by the way, the accommodations are outstanding. You would never know that this used to be a residence. It feels and has the look of a boutique hotel that caters to ecotourism and in particular surfing. When John and I went down there, it's been a while since I saw the house and I was blown away. Not only
Right.
by the accommodations, but also by some of your friends, not only within Carambola Surf House,
Yeah.
but also Ivan in particular. And one day, Brian says, "Hey, why don't you come up to the pool and sit down? And we want to talk to you about a little project that my buddy Ivan has going on." I really wasn't expecting all that came out of there. I was very surprised in a pleasant way and in a profound way. I didn't know that this whole surf project or surf house would actually start gaining a momentum and a mind of its own, and the way that it symbiotically came together with the Marullos project was a no-brainer for Comunidad Connect to get involved and see what we can do. There was just so much potential there. But talk to us a little bit about how Carambola and Marullos came together, because it was something that JT and I couldn't stop talking about. Geez, here we are. We're still talking about it.
That's right.
It was great. Please share.
You know, things happen in line and for a reason. I mean, if these, everything we're talking about, if my dad didn't build this house and, you know, it wasn't here with the skeleton that we created the surf house with, and the mindset of bringing people from the States and just the whole layout, we don't really talk about Marullos. I think, you know, I've known Ivan for a while, and Ivan's like a known guy here in the Dominican. When he spoke to me about Marullos, I had the same reaction that you guys had. It's just, you know, when I began to speak about this, like when you have a desire to give back, but the platform to do that is already done, and it's very simple. It's simple as putting in time or some funds to create an avenue for poor kids to develop into professionals, or just giving somebody that extra push they need. Man, I'm all in. There's so many people here in the Dominican Republic that need help and that ask for help. And if you were to go out every day with $1 million in your pocket, like, you can find people to give it to. But that's not what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is for these kids to understand and appreciate what we're doing so that they can pay it forward and educate them in the process of. So me and Ivan had to go back to Marullo. So me and Ivan had a conversation. It's like, look, this is great what we're doing at Carambola, but I want to find a way for all of us to create something for little kids, because there's so many kids here that need help, whether it's a job or just something of some sort of education so that they can develop themselves. You know, how can we do this? Can we do surf contests? Can we give a couple kids some boards? Can we, you know, what can we do? And Ivan was like, dude, I've done it already. I have Marullos. This is Marullos. And it blew me away. I was like, let's do it. When can we start? And because I've been to Aguas Negras before with one of my players to give away food, water supplies, and baseball equipment and stuff. So I know Aguas Negras.
And just to catch up the listeners on Aguas Negras, it's a small, very, very, very poor port town. And the name Aguas Negras means black waters, and it's a very fitting name. It's an industrial port filled with waste of all kinds, the beaches filled with garbage, but these kids have found an outlet to get out of their circumstances and entertain themselves through the love of surf.
Yes. And the lady who runs their little, it's like a cultural center, they don't only do surfing, they do dance, they do knitting for girls, they do sewing, they do all kinds of stuff. She runs that place pretty good. But the focus in this case has been surfing because that's what we know. And there's a lot of kids that we have taken off the streets and given them the passion for surfing and maybe a window of opportunity to do something else in life, and just to show them, like, look, you can learn English, you can be involved in surf tours, you can make your money doing something else than working in the streets, you know. And but Ivan sold. So I don't know, did he talk to you about how Marullos started?
Yeah, he touched base on the photograph that got put
Yeah.
in the
He had this iconic photograph that some guy sold in California for like $12,000 or $15,000. Ivan put that $12,000 or $15,000 into this project. He got like 8 kids, you know, outfitted them with, you know, brand new surfboards, gear, equipment, clothing. Got them English classes. Showed them, you know, the meditation sources, yoga, and all. I mean, it was unbelievable. And so I told Ivan, look, you can use Carambola Surf House to bring those kids. We can give them English classes there. We can do yoga. We can, you know,
properly feed these kids.
Feed them once a week. Just get them out of that environment and have them feel like their normal is just different than our normal, right? But just show them that there's a different way of life, a different way of approaching things, a different way of like communicating. You know, even just like being around people that can open doors and give them opportunity. And so I was all in. I told Ivan, you know, dude, you're like one of the most respected guys here. And if you have done it already and you've seen that it's worked, I'm all in with you. Let's do it. And that's where we are.
You want to talk a little bit, JT, about our recent trip to Carambola Surf House, us meeting Ivan, talking to Brian, and how we just found a natural fit for what we do, and instilling some of the Comunidad Connect hopes and dreams to the people of Dominican Republic and this project.
Yeah, you know, it's I keep on listening to what Brian was talking about, your line about, you know, everything's happened for a reason, they happen in line. And I think about the influence your brother had on you, you know, taking you out, hooking you up with a little something, showing you something different, accompanying you on your journey, and opening up doors of opportunity. And I remember your partner Jorge from the Search DR.
Hoopy.
Oh, man, such
guy.
a great guy.
Like 4 AKAs.
yeah, man. Well, he talked also about the role his mom played in making sure that he had a surfboard and he was out surfing, so he wouldn't be doing other things as well.
Yes.
And so for me, it was soccer. For Rob, I think you grew up playing volleyball. Yep. Mm-hmm. For Mike, it was soccer as well. I mean, we're all here. We stayed in line for certain reasons, right? And so, you know, whatever it may be, if we keep our eyes open and we walk this road with people of similar mindsets, opportunities will present themselves. And I think when we were in the DR, and it was a long day, right? Super tired, had driven, I don't know how far.
Because we were up in the mountains. We were in Constanza.
We were way out in the hills. In future interviews, we're going to be talking with those guys too. But we got to your house, and you know, you said, "Hey, we're going to meet with Ivan." I was like, "Oh wow," you know, I'm a little tired, but you know, the things happen for a reason, and if we keep our eyes open to the opportunities, good things will happen. And this is where we find ourselves today, right? And I think in exactly 2 months' time, I'm going to be in the DR again with a small group of people, and we're going to visit Aguas Negras for the first time for myself. Comunidad Connect has enlisted the support of another organization in the DR called Puente. They collect data and help drive community development led by community leaders. And they're on board to work in Aguas Negras as well. And so what started as a ripple with that photo and Ivan, and then catching the swell with you, and we're caught up in this swell now too. It's gone I think it's going far beyond the outfitting them with boards and getting them outside of that was, I think we're going to look back and say, great first steps.
Yes.
Yeah.
But wow, there's so, I mean, remember we're talking about fins, we're talking about micro enterprise, we're talking about big enterprise that could change the face of what they do in their community,
yeah.
economic drivers, all within the vein of surf. And that's what amazes me. I'm not sure if I answered your question, but what amazes me is that,
Preach, brother.
well, Brian here is a man who's come from an incredibly high potential network, right? Baseball, the DR is the La Fabrica, right? This is where this is the, I don't say the birthplace, but you know,
Pretty much.
it's critical to the major leagues, right?
Yeah.
You have gone from the front office to the back office to the island, back and forth. The island can be a very small place if you're a person like Brian or Yvonne, and the way that you leverage your network to give opportunities and create opportunities for baseball players or kids from Aguas Negras or the guys that work with you on your team. You said that some of them have been with you for 5-10 years. These are guys that, you know, working with guests and providing the hospitality and maintaining the grounds. I mean, you get there, you get a family feel, and
Yes,
that doesn't happen by itself, right? And so I think Comunidad Connect finds alignment with all types of shared values across the board with Carambola Surf House, with Brian Mejia as a person, and with your friends and colleagues. And our guiding principles are driving us in a very similar direction. So I'm thrilled. I am thrilled to be able to enter this work with such, you know, engaged and motivating partners. I come back from the DR. All I want to do is go back again. So I'm rejuvenated. I'm excited to visit again in a couple months, and you know, and begin to bring groups of students, physical therapy, nursing students, occupational therapy, respiratory therapy. We have academic partners that are on board to join us in this journey. So I think the door is opening, but it's going to open much wider. So sorry to go on that little tangent
No.
It was.
I think it was necessary.
Yeah, just been turning. My mind's been turning here, Brian. I'm inspired every time we're together, man.
That's awesome, man. It's good because, you know, it's hard for me to explain it, and I don't want to sound biased, but this place is just so I don't even know the word. Basically,
It's enchanting, I find it.
I was gonna say magical.
so cool. I mean, you know, you say cool, all right, cool, but I can't find the word. I'm just saying, for you to come down, have a good time, and help people, and until you actually see this, you don't know the amount of need that there is, and it's need that's easily for us to provide. And when you do that, you leave with so many stories, like John is saying, like you experienced. That's why you had that, you know, 2 to 3 minute, you know, thought process of all these things that are going in your mind, because it's simply done. You just have to put an action plan together. And I really appreciated you guys coming down and having that experience, because that's just one step closer for us to really make an impact here.
Yeah, agreed.
Tell our listeners how they can help or how they can reach out to you, Carambola Surf House, Marullos.
Well, you know, I think the way they can help is just, you know, if they were to come down specifically with, I'd like to funnel everything through an entity like Comunidad Connect, because there's just the logistics here there's just a lot, right? A lot to if you want to make a true impact, doing it and planning it through an entity is the best. But if people just want to come to Carambola Surf House to, you know, to vacation or have a good time, you know, the website's carambolasurfhouse.net, and all the information is there. And, you know, it doesn't have to be to or for surfing. We have, you know, jet skis, we do the boogie tours, there's horses, there's other things that people do, whether it's, you know, golf or fishing or whatnot. we provide, all those different tours and stuff. But specifically to give back to the community, I would basically say whoever wants to help, there's a lot of people in need. And if there's specialists in certain things, whether it's a sport specifically or medical specifically, I would say, reach out to you guys and we can plan something really cool.
Yeah, we've got a couple flyers, and I want to say promotional material, but we have some material that if people are interested and want to check it out, certainly reach out to us. I will pop up the contact information. I'm going down in a couple of months, but starting in 2022, we will have trips to the DR almost monthly. So if anybody's interested in coming down with us, we can put it all together for family, friends, other groups, what have you. Brian and his team are wonderful hosts. They showed us parts of the DR I never thought I'd see. And it's really different when you go and you visit an island through the back door, and you have local people that are well-intentioned, right? And also very responsible in the way they approach tourism. And that's what I wanted to call that out, because that doesn't happen by itself, Brian. And you've done a great job of instilling those kind of values with the people you work with down there. And we were in great hands. We had everything we need and needed and more. I'm going to take this cue to pop up some images of when we were down there. We had so much fun. And again, we're helping out in a number of different ways. So when you get to check those two boxes, man, it's a grand slam.
Yeah. Brian, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
This has been a pleasure. It was great reconnecting with my cousin. I hadn't seen him since I was a kid.
Wow.
And it was great that as soon as I went down there, we didn't skip a beat. And he showed that same love and affection to my friends and Comunidad Connect. So I want to really, really, really thank you for that. And I can't wait to see what the future holds.
That's right.
Well, thank you guys for having me, man. And, seeing you come down, Rob, that was awesome to me, man. We hadn't seen each other. I don't want to start throwing numbers out. But it was a very long time. I think we were playing with baseball cards back then still. We were like trading baseball cards.
Yeah. Yep, that's right.
Strawberry with 86 Mets.
Yep, that's right.
But yeah, man, it was a pleasure hosting you guys. You guys just give us dates when you're coming, and this place is totally yours. Really appreciate the initiative with Ivan and Marullos, and the collaboration with us. And I'm speechless because I've always wanted to connect with a foundation like you guys, or an established personnel that has done this before, specifically in the Dominican Republic, but that also gets it, the cultural, sporting, surfing, baseball, outdoors, like that's what we do. And so it's a perfect combination. I really appreciate you guys coming.
Thanks, cuz. It's been great.
Yeah, Brian, we'll be in touch. And again, we'll flash up some information so people can reach out to you. And until next time, everybody, keep it real, and we'll see you soon.
Stay connected.
All right, guys. Later.